4 years ago, two high school teams scraped and clawed in a conference championship game that's been dubbed by some as the greatest high school basketball game ever played. The story of the game was a 70-foot heave by Nick Dufault, a shot that forced the game into its fourth overtime. Thanks in large part to Nick's shot, the Waseca Blue Jays went on to win the conference championship and earn a spot in the tournament for an opportunity to go on and win a state title. But the player with the brightest future as far as sports are concerned was actually a member of the losing team. And without him, that historic 70-footer never happened. In the closing seconds of the fourth quarter, Marshall Hyde trailed by 3 points when Trey Lance pulled up to sink a clutch three-pointer to tie the game, forcing the first of the 4 eventual overtime periods. Now, because he's primarily a football player, this one game has really no bearings on Trey's future. But due to an untimely pandemic and his college football conference postponing their season, there's one game that Trey's set to play this October that will not only affect Trey's future, but could make or break how he's seen by NFL scouts. He'll have an opportunity to either solidify or unravel his stock as a first-round pick in the 2021 draft, and with an extremely small body of work, this one game is gonna affect his future more than you may think. This is the story of Trey Lance, an FCS quarterback coming off a perfect season, 16-0, 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Still, scouts are gonna be completely locked in for the first and last game of his sophomore season. Yo, if y'all enjoyed the video, don't forget, click the thumbs up button, subscribe if you're brand new. Without further ado, y'all already know what time it is, fellas. Cue the wing. Yeah, you'll never know quitter, 'cause I'ma go get her. Yo, real quick before we jump into the video, we got a quick word from today's video sponsor. All right, today's video is sponsored by Display. Display is a website that sells these one-of-a-kind metal posters that are designed to kind of capture whatever your passions are. They do everything from sports to anime to gaming, movies, pop culture, whatever. And they got some of everything, bro. It's pretty dope, actually. They sent me a few Bengals posters to get me started, and after seeing how easy and convenient it was to set all this up, there's a 100% chance I'm gonna be back on this site to finish decking out my office. Let me show y'all my prized possession right now. I ain't even hung that one up yet. I gotta think of something special for that one, you feel me? Like I said earlier, the posters are made of a light metal material and each one comes with 2 magnets. And bro, it's dope how they do this. I'll be the first one to say I am trash at like hanging stuff on the wall. Like, I'm terrible. I'm going to ruin the wall. It's a fact. It's not gonna be straight when I put it up there. I'm going to ruin the wall some more. But Display actually allows you to avoid all of that. You put the protective paper down, then you stick the magnets on the wall. They ain't gotta be straight. You ain't really gotta measure or be too precise. Just get them up there in the general position the poster is gonna be, then throw the poster up. It sticks to the magnet so you can snatch it back down, swap it out, or reposition it as much as you want with no issues. Now you got 3 different sizes you can choose from: medium, large, or extra large. The ones you're looking at right here are large. You select your frame and they ship it to you in a few days. The metal is high quality, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? So the product is fire, but on top of that, you're dealing with a company that actually stands for something. And that's always dope. Basically, this is their philosophy. You buy a Display. For every print you purchase, they actually plant a baby tree. The support goes to a non-profit organization that helps communities around the world plant trees. So every time you buy a poster just to swag out your room, you're actually helping people across the world. That's pretty damn cool. At this point, they've planted over 12 million trees, changed hella lives, and they're really doing some good out here, which is nice to see from any company. So click the link in the description to cop a metal poster and plant a tree. Now, if you're watching this within the first several days, you can actually take advantage of their summer sale. It's running from August 26th through August 30th. So if you click on this, you can save up to 37% on your poster. If you're watching after the 30th, don't trip. I got you. My link will still save you 15% off your purchase no matter when you buy. So either way, you're gonna save some bread. Yo, shout out to Display once again for sponsoring the video. Without further ado, let's get it. Early in Trey's life, dude was a coach's kid. Now, if you've ever known one of these kids, or maybe you was one yourself, you know there's tons of pros and cons that come with that. The relationship can be a complicated one, and sometimes the lines between father, son, and coach player can be blurred. Oftentimes, these super dads with good intentions, I'm sure, can take things way too far and end up doing more harm than good to their kids. Todd Marinovich and his dad would be a primary example of long-term psychological damage done by an overbearing sports dad. Fortunately, Trey's dad, who's a former athlete himself, his biggest philosophy as a youth coach was pretty damn simple. It's a game, play hard, have fun. Boom. Most of Trey's childhood sports memories come from playing AAU basketball, but there's one story from when he'd go golfing with his dad and his brother that really stood out to me. Dude would go out there and just get beat to sleep in golf. He was trash. And while this wasn't the case in his main sports, when it came to golf, he'd actually get in trouble if he got mad when he lost. Why? Because his dad would tell him, you ain't putting in no work. Like, you don't practice golf. What are you mad about? You ain't do nothing to better yourself, nothing to prepare for this situation. So yeah, you gonna hold that L. I love this philosophy and totally agree with his dad. Like, you don't have the right to get mad if you ain't putting in no work. This was a lesson taught to Trey early on, and it really sunk in and stuck with him. So now when he approaching his craft, he makes sure that he's fully prepared. That's off-season work, weights, film study, everything. Because he understands if he doesn't put in the preparation and then don't perform well hell, what did you expect? Trey made the shift to football as his main sport during his sophomore season in high school. That's when he won the starting QB job at Marshall High, a role he secured and never let go for the next several years. Dude had big talent, but honestly didn't have the amazing numbers to go with it. Like, don't get me wrong, he was good, but dude was far from Deshaun Watson numbers, if you know what I'm saying. As a senior, Trey threw for nearly 1,400 yards with 14 TDs. He also rushed for another 641 on the ground with 10 more touchdowns, giving him a total of 2,027 yards and 24 TDs. As a high school senior, pretty good. This was enough to rank him as the 8th best player coming out of Minnesota back in 2018, but not enough to get him a bevy of FBS offers. Actually, for the longest time, he didn't have any FBS offers. He ended up getting a late offer from Boise State, and they almost swayed him, but FCS powerhouse North Dakota State, the school that Carson Wentz went to, was out way too far ahead at this point. They had been doing their scouting. They wasn't sleep. Now, North Dakota State is an absolute powerhouse of an FCS school. They won the FCS championship in 2011, 2012, 13, 14, and 15. Skip 2016, then they won 2017, 18, and 19. So yes, they've won 8 out of the last 9 championships, bro. They're completely dominant, and honestly, they don't even have an FBS equivalent. Like, even Bama is not that damn dominant. Joel Klatt actually said in an interview that he believed they'd be a good FBS school at this point and gave them a chance to beat Oregon, who they were originally scheduled to play in the opener this season. Now, that game is no longer being played, but more on that later. They've sent 2 quarterbacks to the NFL in the last 5 years, including Carson Wentz, who was picked 2nd overall in 2016, and Easton Stick, who was drafted in the 5th round last year. So this is an A1 program. There is an expectation of winning. There's an expectation of greatness. But what they didn't expect was for Trey Lance as a redshirt freshman to go 16-0, win the championship, throw for 2,800 yards, rush for another 1,100 yards, and score a total of 42 touchdowns, all the while throwing 0 interceptions. That's insane. Let me just run that back, bro. The man won every game he played. He threw for 2,800 yards. He threw for 28 touchdowns. He ran for 1,100 yards. He ran for 14 more touchdowns. I probably already said this, but he won every single game, won the championship. Like, this is a perfect season. So what's the catch? He probably small, don't project well to the NFL level. 6'4", 220, cannon arm. Yeah, he like that. How do you do all that and not throw an interception? Like, it's gotta happen once, right? The ball slips or you hit your receiver in the hands and he bounces off and goes to the defender. One bad read, like nothing, like not one pick. This amazing season thrusted the redshirt freshman firmly onto NFL scouts' radar. And all he needs to do at this point is have a solid sophomore season and boom, he's 1st round bound. Probably the 3rd quarterback taken, and some say he could even jump Justin Fields to become the 2nd QB off the board. But then this happened. In the midst of the current pandemic, like many other college football conferences, the Missouri Valley Conference has postponed the season until the spring, the same time Trey in any other year would be preparing for the NFL Combine. According to an ESPN article, one longtime agent said players are already nervous and there's no chance that the bulk of first-round prospects would play in a season in the spring, assuming the draft calendar remains in place, and many second and third round prospects will likely follow suit as well. If you're a bona fide first-round pick and you're that close to the finish line, are you really putting yourself in harm's way? If you're in the position of Trevor Lawrence, Jamar Chase, or Jalen Waddle, you have absolutely nothing to gain. While Trey's circumstances are slightly different, he's currently seen as a top 2 or 3 quarterback off the board. But his sample size is literally one season. And unlike Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, he hasn't played on the biggest stages against college football's top competition. And while he hasn't actually come out and said he'd skip that spring season, it's clearly in his best interest to do so. It's a tough situation to be in. Do you just rest on what you've already done and hope for the best? Or do you risk everything and miss out on preparing for your combine, pro day, and the NFL draft, all in order to play a late season in the spring? If only there were another option. North Dakota State recently signed a contract to play Central Arkansas this fall. One game, October 3rd, to solidify your place amongst the top QBs going into the draft. It's not the Oregon matchup he would have gotten if the season had continued as planned, but it's kind of all he's got. Now, whether or not playing in this game is good for Trey Lance is debatable, but that's honestly not the point of this video at all. For the record, I think it's pretty damn obvious that the safer play for Trey would be to not play in this game, but with that said, it's literally being touted as a showcase for him, so pretty damn sure he's gonna suit up. Now, some people are gonna argue that scouts would mostly ignore this game and just refer back to his freshman year's film. And while that's obviously gonna be the case to some extent, I think you are severely understating our recency bias. Oh my God, it is a real thing. Everybody loses their mind, and I promise you, scouts are only human just like the rest of us. Not to mention, they're not the only ones who are gonna have input. Owners, coaches, the media, etc. People are gonna tune into this game, and it's gonna be a lot of pressure. If he performs so-so, it probably won't affect him much. If he performs great, it'll probably lift him a bit. If he performs terribly though, given the fact that his sample size is so small, it could really affect his draft stock. One 24/7 Sports article quoted former quarterback Dan Orlovsky, who I disagree with more often than not, but I thought he made a good point here. He noted that because it doesn't look like Ohio State's gonna have a season, Lance will have the freshest tape in scouts' eyes, which could serve him really well depending on how he looks. Even though the game is against another FCS team, a pretty decent one who went 9-4 last year, they do have a defensive back on the roster who's a pretty good NFL prospect in his own right, so he damn sure ain't playing against all bums. If Trey puts up a good stat line and makes 2 or 3 NFL throws, that'll confirm what scouts already believe to be true. If he blows people away, everybody's gonna try to control their emotions and put things in perspective. Again, it's not the greatest competition, but the fact that Carson Wentz, one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL, came from this school, I mean, it's gonna give him a leg up. Think about this. If Trey could play one more game without an interception, he could be the only college football player I ever heard of to throw for 30 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his career. He'd literally leave college football with no picks on the books. And that's honestly just some legendary in its own right. So in just over a month as of the time of this video, we could witness something special. A player who once came up short in the greatest high school basketball game ever played could rise to the occasion and place himself firmly amongst the top quarterbacks in this year's NFL draft. My name is FlemLo Raps. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'm gonna holler at you next time, fellas. One.